Martinique is an island in the Lesser Antilles in the eastern Caribbean Sea, with a land area of 1,128 square kilometers and a population of 386,486 inhabitants. Like Guadeloupe, it is an overseas region of France, consisting of a single overseas department. One of the Windward Islands, it is directly north of Saint Lucia, northwest of Barbados, and south of Dominica. As with the other overseas departments, Martinique is one of the 27 regions of France and an integral part of the French Republic. As part of France, Martinique is part of the European Union, and its currency is the euro. The official language is French, although many of its inhabitants also speak Antillean Creole. Etymology: Martinique owes its name to Christopher Columbus, who sighted the island in 1493 and finally landed on June 15, 1502. The island was then called Maʁ.tiːnik, which came from a mythical island described by the Taínos of Hispaniola. According to historian Sidney Daney, the island was called Maʁ by the Caribs, which would mean the island of iguanas. After Columbus' initial discovery, the name then evolved into Madinina, Madiana, and Martinique. When Columbus returned to the island in 1502, he rechristened the island as Martinica. Finally, through the influence of the neighboring island of Dominica, it came to be known as Martinique. History: Pre-European contact, the island was occupied first by Arawaks, then by Caribs. The Carib people had migrated from the mainland to the islands about 1200 CE, according to carbon dating of artifacts. They largely displaced, exterminated and assimilated the Taino who were resident on the island in the 1490s. 1493–1688, Martinique was chartered by Columbus in 1493, but Spain had little interest in the territory. On September 15, 1635, Pierre Billain des Nambucks, French governor of the island of St. Kitts, landed in the harbour of St. Pierre with 150 French settlers after being driven off St. Kitts by the English. Des Nambucks claimed Martinique for the French King Louis XIII and the French Compagnie des Îles de l'Arme copyright Ric, and established the first European settlement at Fort St. Pierre. In 1636, the indigenous Caribs rose against the settlers to drive them off the island in the first of many skirmishes. The French successfully repelled the natives and forced them to retreat to the eastern part of the island, on the Créole Peninsula in the region then known as the Cape Stir. When the Carib revolted against French rule in 1658, the governor Charles Houet de Petitpras copyright retaliated with war against them. Many were killed. Those who survived were taken captive and expelled from the island. Some Carib had fled to Dominica or St. Vincent, where the French agreed to leave them at peace. Because there were few Catholic priests in the French Antilles, many of the earliest French settlers were Huguenots who sought greater religious freedom than what they could experience in mainland France. They were quite industrious and became quite prosperous. Although edicts from King Louis XIV's court regularly came to the islands to suppress the Protestant heretics, these were mostly ignored by island authorities until Louis XIV's Edict of Revocation in 1685. From September 1686 to early 1688, the French crown used Martinique as a threat and a dumping ground for mainland Huguenots who refused to reconvert to Catholicism. Over 1,000 Huguenots were transported to Martinique during this period, usually under miserable and crowded ship conditions that caused many of them to die en route. Those that survived the trip were distributed to the island planters as Nganga copyright S under the system of serf peonage that prevailed in the French Antilles at the time. As many of the planters on Martinique were themselves Huguenot, and who were sharing in the suffering under the harsh strictures of the Revocation, they began plotting to emigrate from Martinique with many of their recently arrived brethren. Many of them were encouraged by their Catholic brethren who looked forward to the departure of the heretics and seizing their property for themselves. By 1688, nearly all of Martinique's French Protestant population had escaped to the British American colonies or Protestant countries back home. The policy decimated the population of Martinique and the rest of the French Antilles and set back their colonization by decades, causing the French king to relax his policies in the islands yet leaving the islands susceptible to British occupation over the next century. Post-1688, Martinique was occupied several times by the British, including once during the 7 Years' War and twice during the Napoleonic Wars. Britain controlled the island almost continuously from 1794 to 1815, when it was traded back to France at the conclusion of the Napoleonic Wars. Martinique has remained a French possession since then. As sugar prices declined in the early 1800s, the planter class lost political influence, and in 1848 Victor Schouwalter persuaded the French government to end slavery in the French West Indies. On May 8, 1902, Maʁ.tiઃnik erupted and completely destroyed Saint-Pierre, killing 30,000 people. The only survivor in the town, Auguste Cyparis, was saved by the thick walls of his prison cell. Shortly thereafter the capital shifted to Fort-de-France, where it remains today. In 1946, the French National Assembly voted unanimously to transform the colony into an overseas department of France. In 1974 it became simply a department. In 2009, the French Caribbean general strikes exposed deep ethnic and class tensions and disparities within Martinique. Governance. Together with Guadeloupe and French Guiana, Martinique is one of the overseas departments of France. It is also an outermost region of the European Union. The inhabitants of Martinique are French citizens with full political and legal rights. Martinique sends 4 deputies to the French National Assembly and 2 senators to the French Senate. Subdivisions. Martinique is divided into 4 arrondissements, 34 communes, and 45 cantons. The 4 arrondissements of the island, with their respective locations, are as follows. Fort-de-France is the sole prefecture of Martinique. It takes up the central zone of the island. It includes 4 communes and 16 cantons. In 1990 the population of the arrondissement was 163,969. Besides the capital, it includes the communities of Saint Joseph and Schouwalter. La Trinité copyright is one of the 3 sub-prefectures on the island and occupies the northeast region. It has 10 communes and 11 cantons. In 1990 the population was 78,922, increasing to 85,006 in 1999, a growth of 7.71%. La Trinité copyright contains the communities of La Trinité copyright, Adupa-Boulan, Base Point, Le Gros-Morne, La Lorraine, Mékaba, La Marigot, La Robert and Sainte-Marie. La Marine, the second sub-prefecture of Martinique, makes up the southern part of the island and is composed of 12 communes and 13 cantons. The population grew from 93,345 in 1990 to 106,818 in 1999, an increase of 14.3%. The sub-prefecture includes the communities of La Marine, Les Anses de Lot, La Diamante, Ducos, La Frena Section Wa, Rivière-Pilot, Rivière-Sala Copyright Sainte-Anne, Saint-Luce, Saint-Esprit, Les Trois-Îlets and La Vauclin. Saint-Pierre is the third sub-prefecture of the island. It comprises 8 communes and 5 cantons, lying in the northwest of Martinique. Its population grew from 23,336 in 1990 to 23,464 in 1999, an increase of 0.55%. Together with Saint-Pierre, its communities include Le Carbet, Case Pilot Bellefontaine, Le Mont Rouge and Le Pracher. Geography. Geographic coordinates, 14 degree 40 euro squared N 61 degree 00 euro squared W, part of the archipelago of the Antilles. Martinique is located in the Caribbean Sea about 450 km northeast of the coast of South America and about 700 km southeast of the Dominican Republic. It is directly north of Saint Lucia, northwest of Barbados, and south of Dominica. The total area of Martinique is 1,100 square kilometers, of which 40 square kilometers is water and the rest land. Martinique is the 3rd largest island in the Lesser Antilles after Trinidad and Guadeloupe. It stretches 70 km in length and 30 km in width. The highest point is the volcano of the Maʁ.tiઃnik at 1,397 meters above sea level. The island is volcanic in origin, lying along the subduction fault where the North American plate slides beneath the Caribbean plate. Martinique has 8 different centers of volcanic activity. The oldest rocks are andesitic lavas dated to about 24 million years ago, mixed with thalliatic magma containing iron and magnesium. Maʁ.tiːnik, the island's most dramatic feature, formed about 400,000 years ago. Tiːnik erupted in 1792, 1851 and twice in 1902. The eruption of May 8, 1902 destroyed St. Pierre and killed 28,000 people in 2 minutes. That of August 30, 1902 caused nearly 1,100 deaths, mostly in Morne and Ajupa-Bouillon. The coast of Martinique is difficult for navigation of ships. The peninsula of Créole clearly separates the North Atlantic and South Atlantic coast. Environment. The north of the island is mountainous. It features 4 ensembles of pitons and mornes, the Piton Canal on the extreme north, which dominates the Dominica Channel. Maʁ.tiːnik, an active volcano. The Morne Jacob. And the Pitons du Carbet, an ensemble of 5 extinct volcanoes covered with rainforest and dominating the Bay of Fort-de-France at 1,196 meters. Maʁ.tiːnik's volcanic ash has created grey and black sand beaches in the north, contrasting markedly from the white sands of Les Salines in the south. The south is more easily traversed, though it still features some impressive geographic features. Because it is easier to travel and because of the many beaches and food facilities throughout this region, the south receives the bulk of the tourist traffic. The beaches from Pointe de Bout, through Diamant, Saint Lucia, the department of Saint Anne and down to Les Salines are popular. The northern end of the island catches most of the rainfall and is heavily forested, featuring species such as bamboo, mahogany, rosewood and locust. The south is drier and dominated by savanna-like brush, including cacti, copaber balsam, logwood and acacia. Anolis lizards and fer-de-lance snakes are native to the island. Mongooses, introduced in the 1800s, prey upon bird eggs and have exterminated or endangered a number of native birds, including the Martinique trembler, white-breasted trembler and white-breasted thrasher. The mongooses mentioned above were released in Martinique to control the snake population. Because of Martinique's warm temperatures, many snakes reside on the island. Some of these snakes include the pit viper, the lance-head viper, and many other snakes. Economy. In 2003 Martinique had a total GDP of €5.496 billion. In 2000 its per capita GDP was €14,283. In that year services constituted 82.2% of GDP, while industry represented 8.6% and agriculture 3.5%. In 2002 the island exported €26 million worth of goods, primarily fruit, beverages and refined petroleum products. It imported €486 million worth of goods, including vehicles, furniture, medicine and raw petroleum. Historically Martinique's economy relied on agriculture, but by the beginning of the 21st century this sector had dwindled considerably. Sugar production has declined, with most of the sugarcane now used for the production of rum. Banana exports are increasing, going mostly to France. The bulk of meat, vegetable, and grain requirements must be imported, contributing to a chronic trade deficit that requires large annual transfers of aid from France. Tourism has become more important than agricultural exports as a source of foreign exchange. In 2000 the island hosted 500,000 tourists, and the tourism industry employed 7% of the total workforce. Roughly 16% of the total businesses on the island provide tourist-related services. All goods entering Martinique are charged a variable sea toll, which may reach 30% of the value of the cargo and provides 40% of the island's total revenue. Additionally, the government charges an annual due of 1 to 2.5% and a value-added tax of 2.2 to 8.5%. Infrastructure. Transport. Martinique's main and only airport is Martinique-Ouimet Saïr International Airport. It serves flights to and from Europe, the Caribbean, Venezuela, the United States, and Canada. Fort-de-France is the major harbour. The island has regular ferry service to Guadeloupe, Dominica, Saint Lucia, Les Saints and Marie-Galante. There are also several local ferry companies that connect Fort-de-France with Pointe-du-Bout. The road network is extensive and well maintained, with freeways in the area around Fort-de-France. Buses run frequently between the capital and Saint-Pierre. Communications: the country code top-level domain for Martinique is MQ, but FR is often used instead. The entire island uses a single area code for landline phones and 696 for cell phones. Demographics. Culture. As an overseas d'art copyright department of France, Martinique's culture blends French and Caribbean influences. The city of Saint-Pierre was often referred to as the Paris of the Lesser Antilles. Following traditional French custom, many businesses close at midday to allow a lengthy lunch, then reopen later in the afternoon. The official language is French. Many Martinicans speak Martinican Creole, a subdivision of Antillean Creole that is virtually identical to the varieties spoken in neighboring English-speaking islands of Saint Lucia and Dominica. Martinican Creole is based on French, Carib and African languages with elements of English, Spanish, and Portuguese. It continues to be used in oral storytelling traditions and other forms of speech and to a lesser extent in writing. Its use is predominant among friends and close family. Though it is normally not used in professional situations, members of the media and politicians have begun to use it more frequently as a way to redeem national identity and prevent cultural assimilation by mainland France. Indeed, unlike other varieties of French Creole such as Mauritian Creole, Martinican Creole is not readily understood by speakers of Standard French due to significant differences in grammar, syntax, vocabulary and pronunciation, though over the years it has progressively adapted features of Standard French. Most of Martinique's population is descended from enslaved Africans brought to work on sugar plantations during the colonial era, generally mixed with some French, Amerindian, Indian, Lebanese or Chinese ancestry. Between 5 and 10% of the population is of Indian origin. The island also boasts a small Syro-Lebanese community, a small but increasing Chinese community, and the bar car copyright community, descendants of European ethnic groups of the first French and Spanish settlers, who still dominate parts of the agricultural and trade sectors of the economy. Whites in total represent 5% of the population. The bar car copyright population generally live in mansions on the Atlantic coast of the island. In addition to the island population, the island hosts a metropolitan French community, most of which lives on the island on a temporary basis. There are an estimated 260,000 people of Martinican origin living in mainland France, most of them in the Paris region. Emigration was highest in the 1970s, causing population growth to almost stop, but it is comparatively light today. Today, the island has a higher standard of living than most other Caribbean countries. French products are easily available, from Chanel fashions to Limoges porcelain. Studying in the maʁ copyright tripole is common for young adults. Martinique has been a vacation hotspot for many years, attracting both upper-class French and more budget-conscious travelers. Martinique has a hybrid cuisine, mixing elements of African, French, Carib Amerindian and South Asian traditions. One of its most famous dishes is the colombo, a unique curry of chicken, meat or fish with vegetables, spiced with a distinctive mezcla of Tamil origins, sparked with tamarind, and often containing wine, coconut milk, cassava and rum. A strong tradition of Martinican desserts and cakes incorporate pineapple, rum, and a wide range of local ingredients. In popular culture. In 1887, the artist Paul Gauguin lived in Martinique. Gauguin painted the tropical landscape and the native women. The Paul Gauguin Interpretation Center is dedicated to his stay on the island. Martinique is the main setting of the 1944 film To Have and Have Not starring Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. Martinique was featured in the 1999 remake of The Thomas Crown Affair, and in the movie Sugar Cane Alley. Much of the 1979 Italian thriller Concorde Affair 79 took place on and around the island. In Assassin's Creed 3, Benjamin Church was trying to escape from Boston to get away from Hytham Conway and Ratonica copyright ton until they caught him in Martinique. Martinique is the main setting of Patrick Chamoiseau's novel Solibo Magnificent. Martinique is referenced frequently in Jean Rhys' novel Wide Sargasso Sea as the previous home of the protagonist's mother and caretaker. Oima copyright Sa'ai's seminal poem, Notebook on Return to My Native Land, envisions the poet's imagined journey back to his homeland Martinique to find it in a state of colossal poverty and psychological inferiority due to the French colonial presence. See also: Bibliography of Martinique, Regional Council of Martinique, Scouts et Guides de Martinique, Index of Martinique-related articles, 2009 French Caribbean General Strikes, Colonial and Departmental Heads of Martinique, List of Martinique-related topics. References. External links, Government, Martinique, the Island of Flowers, Official French website, Préfecture Copyright Guin Martinique, Official site, Regional Council of Martinique Official site, General information, Martinique at DMOZ, Wikimedia Atlas of Martinique, Travel, Martinique Tourism Authority, Official site, Martinique, Information site, Martinique Travel Guide from Wiki Voyage, Sport, Kiteboarding spots on Martinique.